everyone. Happy Monday. It is Monday, March 10th. We have just gotten our clocks pushed forward if you're in the US. And so many of you are experiencing a little bit more sunlight in your day. I'm really excited by it, actually. And so this is a great Monday for me. So if you are here with me for the first time, welcome to the Other Side podcast. My name is Janelle Villiers. I am an author and a coach. My mission is to help people get the books out of their heads and onto paper so that way they can publish and impact the people they've been called to publish, because I believe that a book can change a person's life. And so I'm here to talk about that here. I want to give you some tips and some hints and some pointers, sprinkle that in with a little bit of mental health related topics, because that is also probably my core love. My reason for writing books is, or wanting to help people write books, is because a lot of times the books that they write help us deal with a lot of our mental isolation, the idea that we think that we're all alone and there's nobody else like me who's ever experienced or gone through what I'm going through. Books can help with that. So you're going to get all of that here on the Other Side podcast. So today, I am really excited because I wanted to talk to you guys about a topic that was actually requested for last week. So last week, I was talking about like tips for how to publish your book outside of Amazon. So if you didn't catch that episode, make sure you go watch it. You can catch it either in my Instagram, I've posted it, or it's on Facebook, or it's on YouTube. Just go to the episode before this. It talks about Amazon and where else you can publish your books. That way you can make more money. And somebody was like, yeah, I should totally talk about audiobooks. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's talk about audiobooks. So if you're here for that, I heard you loud and clear. So let's get to it. Let's see. Some of the things I wanted to focus on. Sorry, here's the topic. How do you make an audiobook? All right, so let's talk about it. The first thing that I wanted to get into, kind of nuts and bolts of the whole thing. So what exact equipment do you need, and maybe what you don't need too? So some of the essentials include a microphone. You need one of these. You don't have to get the most expensive one on the market. I mean, I've seen microphones that are like $200, $300, $500, right? But you definitely are going to need a microphone. You can't just use like talking to your computer. It's just not going to sound as good. So here are some microphones. I'm going to pop them up, look some up for you so you would know like how much they cost and things like that. There's one called the Audio-Technica ATR21, right? $99. This is a Blue Yeti. Worked just fine for me. You can find it as low as $65 on Amazon. So look around for those, check for those. The thing is, you really want to make sure that your quality of your voice, I mean, it's an audiobook. You want to make sure that it's clear, that a lot of these microphones can take away a lot of background noises, things like that. So you really just want to make sure that you get a quality microphone. You don't need to get really expensive earphones, right? Because sometimes when you use that helps to like, you can hear the audio really well, and then you can make the edits better because you can kind of hear what's going on. And so if you're thinking about what headphones to get, here's some other ones that I saw that I thought would be helpful. So there's Audio-Technica, the M40X. You can get that for $700. Or if you want to go more high end, you get anything by Sony, really. Anything by Sony is pretty good. But this one is one that a lot of podcasters and YouTubers say that is really works well. So it's the Sony MDR 7506. It's about $200, or a little bit more than $200 on Amazon. And so you can find that there. The headphones are great. Again, so you can just hear the quality of what you're doing. But then comes the other piece, right? So if you're thinking like, okay, well, what about like background noise? So what happens is when you put the headphones on, you can start to hear a little bit of an echo. If you're just using the mic, you hear sometimes your voice kind of bounces off walls. And so you don't need to get those acoustic foam panels. You've probably seen those in sound studios. They're really good at like keeping the what happens when your voice bounces off the walls is almost like an echo, right? And you're trying to reduce the echo sounds. Honestly, guys, this is what I did. I went into a closet that was full of clothes and actually provides excellent dampening. And it's free, right? You don't have to go anywhere for that. Just take your microphone and your book and you go into your closet. Yeah. So obviously, if you have a really ginormous closet, this still isn't going to work. I'm talking about those closets that are pretty small and compact and that you can actually like go into a little bit. That would be ideal. All right. So number two, in terms of like things that like equipment that you need, pop filters. This is really helpful. So the pop filter is that like it's like this little like circular, or sometimes it's a square, like it looks like a screen almost, like that goes in front of the microphone. I actually highly recommend them. They're only $10 to $15, and they prevent the popping. So like when you make P sounds, any words that begin with P, or even if you do like a strong B sound, like boy, or boy, play, like especially the P's, there's a, you like hear that because the microphone is picking up all of like the little nuances in the sound of your voice. And it can actually, like, you could be talking regular and then all of a sudden you say something like play, and it's like like that pop is loud. Really loud, really distracting, and it's really hard to reduce those a lot of times. So it's just a lot easier if you just like save yourself the trouble, just get one of those pop filters. It's really useful. They're not too expensive. Also, I would recommend getting like a stable microphone stand, not something that's like on the desk, because then it like the desk transmits the vibrations and all that stuff. So don't do that. You want to get a stable one, or if you're like sitting on the ground or something like that, because that's what I did. I sat on the ground in my closet, and so there's nothing. The floor, I guess you can vibrate, but it actually reduced it. I put the microphone on like a book or two, and that kind of helped with that. So there's not like this like rattling vibration. You can also skip on the expensive reflection filters. So a do-it-yourself version of this is just getting like blankets and just putting them, like if you feel like the clothes aren't working, you can put like a blanket like essentially over your head, over the microphone, and that can also reduce some of the echoing that might appear elsewhere. Okay, so that's what I've got with in terms of. Oh, good. I'm glad that those recommendations helped you, Sonia. I found them helpful. All right. So here's some other thoughts that that came up for me. Oh, software. Yeah. So now you want to like actually edit your audio. And so what I recommend is a free one. There's a free one called Audacity that you can use. Audacity is really helpful because it gives you all the tools that you would need for basic recording and editing. So these are things like you say something and you're like, crap, I didn't say that I want it the way I wanted it to say it. So then you re-say the thing. And then when you re-say the thing, now when you're listening to the audio, now you need to cut out the one that was not the way that you said it, right? And keep the version that of that's the way that you the version that sounds the way you want it to sound. And so you need something, some sort of software, something that can go in and cut out, right? Splice out the things that you don't want in the audio and just make it one long thing. So Audacity is really cool. Don't waste any money on plugins. You can just get like what comes with the noise reduction and comprehension tools or compression tools are totally fine and sufficient. You don't need to get extra ones. However, I would say that you should invest in what's called ACX Check. ACX Check. It's only $11 and it's a plugin. And basically what it does is you plug into your computer, you plug in, and then you put your audio files through it, and it checks to see whether it meets the requirements of ACX. ACX is Amazon's Audible. It is what you are going to upload your audios to is ACX in order for your audiobook to be available on Audible, which is Amazon's audiobook platform. It's probably the largest one, probably right after Spotify, right? Because Spotify and Audible, I think, are actually coming neck and neck now, although Audible was like the only player for a really long time, but you can now find them on Audible. Also, iBooks now has audiobooks and stuff like that too. So anyway, I say all that to say, you will be surprised. You think like, oh, this is a great audio, and then you try to upload it, and ACX is like, no, this is wrong, that's wrong, blah, 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 blah. Well, wouldn't it be great is if you could have it checked first before you go through all that drama? And so just get this ACX Check plugin. It's $11, like I said. I think it's totally worth it. One of the other things that you should know is that when you're doing your audiobook, you just don't upload the entire 3 hours or whatever of your book. You're actually going to upload every single chapter. So you have one audio recording for the title. You know, the title is like, I slept with a married man. Am I still a good person? Written by Janelle Villiers. spoken by Janelle Villiers, right? Like that's kind of, and then that's it, right? That's one file. And then the next file is chapter 1, right? And then I do the whole chapter, and that's maybe like 10 minutes, right? And then chapter 2 is a whole nother. So every single chapter, every single section gets its own audio. So just want you to know that. I thought you just upload one big thing. No, was wrong. No, ma'am, don't do that. Each chapter gets its own section, and you're going to upload each one of those in the ACX check to make sure that each one satisfies the requirements, and you don't have to worry about having trouble when you actually are ready to upload it to ACX. The standards for ACX are pretty much the standard for all the other formats. So whether it's whether you're looking at Spotify or iBooks, like I was saying, or any other place to put audiobooks, if it passes the ACX check, you're pretty good with the other places too. So that's why I recommend this one. It's a really good one. Okay, so those are tools. Now let's talk about recording techniques. And these are things that anyone can master. Number one is perfect position. So you want to put yourself 6 to 8 inches from your microphone. So you want to measure that. And there should be like a 45-degree angle. So when I was doing it, I mean, the microphone was down here and I was pretty close to it, 6 to 8 inches. That's really good. It reduces the poppings, that I was talking to you about. You want to maintain consistent distance. So try to make like a visual marker. Maybe you put like a sticky note and say like, okay, my head goes here, the microphone goes here. You know, if you're in your closet, you can do things like that. And then I would totally recommend recording for 10 to 15-minute segments maximum. You want to maintain your energy and your focus. And if you just keep reading, like your energy kind of goes down, even without you noticing it. Like, it's just because you start really high and then it's just human nature. So I'd recommend doing it in 10 to 15-minute segments. That it reduces some of that. So just stop, pause, take a drink of water, walk around a little bit, and then come back. If you want to put in like a total 30 minutes, I would recommend splitting it up a little bit. All right, now preparing your voice. I say you should have some sort of routine around this. Hydrate with room temperature water 30 minutes before you start your recording. Do simple warm-ups with your lips, like lip drills. You blow raspberry, things like that. Brown cow, mow, right? Like get your mouth used to like moving, because you're gonna have to move your mouth in order to speak. Doing tongue twisters is really good. She sells seashells by the seashore, right? And like really exaggerating how your mouth moves, because you're going to be doing a lot of it. Also, what would be really helpful is if you stand. I sat, but standing is better. I did find that actually, that's not true. I stood for some of it and I sat for others, but standing actually was better. It helps with breath control and vocal energy. It's so true. When I stood for the last half of my book and probably sat for the first half, and standing, I definitely felt much better. The energy level thing is real. Okay, so that's voice preparation. And then the punch and roll method. So when you make a mistake, just pause, take a break, and then restart the sentence. You want to keep your energy consistent between takes, so that way it seems seamless. So like, you have to be like, oh man, I made a mistake. I mean, I get it. Some of us are like that, like we're very emotive, but but if you make a mistake, just like, caught a mistake, make a pause, take a breath, and then say the sentence the way that you wanted to say it, right? Energy being the same, of course, but I think like sometimes you're just reading and you're reading your book and you're saying the thing. And what if you meant to say something like a question, but you just read it as is? So Jill came into the room and asked her father, is dinner ready yet? And you're like, wait, I meant to read it differently. So pause. Jill came into the room and asked her father, is dinner ready yet? Right? So that way you can say it the way that you meant to say it, instead of just, without the intonation that is required for a particular sentence or to convey meaning or a particular emotion, right? Sometimes it's like the yelling or something, or sometimes it's a whisper. And so you want to whisper whatever it is that's being said. So all of those things, you don't catch it until you say it. And then you're like, oh, I meant to say it differently. And so pause and then go back. Here's what's really helpful for that. When you're in the editing process, you'll see the pauses. And so you know immediately, oh, there's probably a part of this that needs to be spliced out because there are 2 pauses here. I can see them. There's like no sound. And so like, oh, okay, that's probably going to need to be taken out because there's a no sound and a no sound in between sound. So that's a really helpful indicator. So you can go in and like make edits quicker. All right, so I love that. So a recap for that is when you're recording, these are simple techniques that anyone can perfect or master. And number one is mic position, right? You want to make sure that your mic is 6 to 8 inches away and that your 45 degrees angle from the microphone reduces the popping. And record for 10 to 15 minute segments at a time. Do some voice preparations, of the tongue twisters, things like that. And then remember, whenever you do make a mistake, just pause and then say the sentence the way that you want to. All right. Now let's talk about step-by-step editing processes if you really want to get like that professional sounds. So one is a 3-pass system. So the first pass, you remove mistakes that create a very clean flow, like it's just like a one big flow. So you're just removing those pauses that we talked about. The second pass is you apply noise reduction and compression. So anything that sounds like an echo or things like that, right, you're going to reduce that. And then the third pass, you're going to listen for mouth sounds and breathing issues. So those are the pops, right? She went to play, and like you hear this loud P sound, right? And then any breathing. So, we're talking, and then we naturally breathe in between. And so sometimes you can hear those breaths, and you can actually reduce those so you don't hear those at all. Then the other thing for editing is you want to use a consistent sound profile. So process a 1-minute sample until it's perfect. Then save those settings as a template, and then you can apply those settings every single time you do like another segment. So consistent sound profile is really helpful. And then you can do a quality control checklist. So here are some things that you're going to want to check for. I'm going to put them up because it's a couple of them. So you want to check for RMS volume between 23 decibels and negative 18 decibels. This was actually an issue for Jax, one of my authors who I worked with, #1 best-selling author, Jacqueline Kreider, who we fondly call Jax. When she was doing her audiobook, she was like, oh my goodness, we keep getting the decibels, like it just was out of range. And she's like, what's going on? And so we actually had to send it to a friend, now a friend of mine. It's a young man who I met through Fiverr, who this is what he does. Like all he does he advertises that he is a contract worker. He will do your audio and will make sure that it's at the right quality for Audible, essentially, or any, like, as you know, any platform that does audiobooks. Anyway, so that thing is like a real thing. They will decline if it's not between those RMS values. Then B, you want to ensure that the noise floor is below 60 decibels, and you want to confirm, C, that you have 0.5 to 1 second of room tone between chapters. So essentially just like a pause between chapters. And that's probably a pretty easy one to do, but yes. Okay. So all of that is important. So you definitely want to make sure you have that kind of quality control checklist. So as a summary, so step-by-step editing processes that can give you a professional sound, you want to do the 3-pass system. First pass, remove any mistakes, create one clean, solid flow. Second pass, you're going to apply noise reduction. Third pass, listen for mouth sounds and breathing issues. Secondarily, you're going to use a consistent profile. So process 1 minute, notice all of the different settings that you've created. And this 1 minute is like the best minute you could possibly make, and then just apply those same settings to every other piece of sound that you do. And then third is do that quality control checklist. All right. And then finally, I want to talk to you guys about the distribution secrets to maximize your audiobook reach. Okay. Number one, it's beyond Audible. You don't have to just stick with Audible. There are other ways that you can reach your target audience. So libraries are a big one. Libraries account for 45% of audiobook consumption. 45%. So please make sure that you're getting your audiobooks on libraries. Overdrive and Hoopla are two providers where you can upload your audiobook and they will get to libraries that way. So Hoopla and Overdrive. You also want to consider direct distribution. Libro.fm, they actually give audiobooks to independent bookstores. There's another way to get beyond Audible. And then I have a pricing strategy if you're interested to know, like, well, what should I even price my audiobook? You can price based on length. So anything under 3 hours, typically $6.95, around that is pretty good. Anything between 3 to 5 hours, you're looking at $14.95. And anything that's 5 hours or more, $19.95 is very typical. So these are like average prices. So you can use this as a strategy or as a guide. And then finally, marketing. So you want to think about different ways that you can market. You can include like a brief about the narrator section in the description. So when people are thinking about buying your book, they can hear more about you, the narrator, or the narrator themselves. Create like an audiogram. So snippets. These are basically snippets of your audiobook for social media that you can play. And then you can do review copies to audiobook specific reviewers, right? So there are people on social media, that's all they do is review audiobooks, books, things like that. And so you can send it to them. You can also send it to people who do blogs that for audiobooks as well. And so Audiophile Magazine is one of those blogs you can look into, Audiophile Magazine. All right, so here are the 3 tips for distribution secrets outside of Amazon and Audible. Libraries. They account for 45% of audiobook consumption. So you're looking at Overdrive and Hoopla for libraries. Also, Libro.fm, they will, if you upload your audiobooks to them, they will get it out to independent bookstores. It's another really great strategy. Pricing, we already talked about that, but I'll pop it up one more time. There's the pricing strategy. You can use that. For your pricing based on how long your audiobook is in total. And then finally, we're talking about looking at how do you market your audiobook. And so these are doing things like giving a description of the narrator. You can put that in the description box or like a bio of the narrator. Another thing that's really cool is you can make short audio clips and put that on your social media platforms. And then finally, you can go to different people who actually review books and audiobooks and have them review yours. So that way they can talk about it and then market it for you. A great place to do that is Audiophile Magazine. All right, so these were your tips for how do you make an audiobook for yourself, right? Hopefully you found these really helpful. I know they were really helpful for me when I was doing my audiobook. If you have any questions, let me know. Would love to answer any of your questions, but get out there, get them, get your audiobook out there. I really recommend it. I had a lot of my friends tell me, Janelle, I love you and I want to read your book, but I really don't read anymore. I just listen to audiobooks when I'm in the car, when I'm cooking, when I'm doing all these things. Totally relatable. And so that forced me to go do the audiobook. One other thing I will say is if you can do the audiobook at the same time that you launch your book or an ebook, I would do all of them at the same time. The reason why is then that way you only have to market one book once instead of having to market the ebook, the paperback, and then like later now you're marketing the audiobook. It's just easier when you do everything at once. Better bang for your buck. So just think about that when you're out there putting out your audiobook. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Oh, how many hours did it take for you to record? Good question, Dion. It took several weeks. I want to say, I had to commit, right? It's kind of like the writing process. Like I had to commit to writing every single morning. So when I finally committed, like, all right, I'm going to record for 30 minutes a day, every single day. Because I did a little bit, then I stopped. Then I said, remember I said like I did some of it sitting and then the rest of it standing. I also moved. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So because of all these different things, it took me longer than maybe the average person because I had various things happening. But once I was committed, then it really started to move along. I would say overall, it took me about 2 months, and that probably could have been shortened had I actually done it consistently. So something to consider. All right. Hopefully that's really helpful. Again, my book has 14 chapters. It's a 100-page book. So if you're thinking like, oh, well, how many pages is my book? How long would that take? Yeah. So, but I also know Jacqueline, who did her audiobook, she recorded it in, I want to say 2 weeks, and she has like a 170-page book or 150-page book. So if you're committed, she was very committed. She just like got the thing done. You can get it done in a much shorter period of time. So just commit, and just like you did the writing process, and it will be done in no time. All right. Oh, wait, a couple more comments. Okay, great. Awesome, Sonia. I'm so glad it was helpful for you. I will see you guys next week. If you have any other suggestions on writing tips, things like that, please let me know. I will talk about them. Tonight, I'm giving my masterclass in exactly an hour and 5 minutes. It's the Write, Publish, and Prosper Masterclass. Go check my stories. You get the link there. Check my bio. It's on the link there. There's still time to register. Can't wait to see you either on the masterclass or next week. Take care, everyone.